welcome back to the SKOLcast. My name is Asher Whitmer, and I'm here with my brother Christopher. We enjoy talking football. We happen to be Vikings fans. Whether we are grateful that we were born into this destiny or born into the location where that was the natural gravitation of our fandom, or whether we're not, I don't know. The jury's out on that. It probably will be our whole lives. But I would say we're probably feeling better than we have all season long after the Vikings put together for the first time. Oh, how far are we in? 13 games? 14 games?
We just finished week 15, I think.
With week 15, 14 games for the first time this season, the Vikings offense puts together 2 consistent and good games. Now, we'll get into all of that. We'll get into they were against some of the worst passing defenses in the league. We'll discuss all of that and some of the online conversation and chatter around people's perspective of JJ and 9 and Kevin O'Connell and the Gritty and all that, all the different stuff. But before we get further, I just want to say if you have enjoyed the SKOLcast, if you want it to continue into future seasons, go ahead and like and subscribe it to the channel. Leave a comment. Tell us what team you're cheering for, what your take on this NFL season. It's somewhat a weird season. Go ahead and drop a comment. The other thing I want to just give a heads up out on the onset is we typically record these in the mornings before families before our families are doing too much. Today, our schedule's a little different. We decided to do a midday recording, but we'll be in and out with kids, which we've done some before, but that is the nature of this channel, of our hobby commentary on NFL and the Vikings. So with that intro, Christopher, how are you feeling after 2 of, I would say, McCarthy's best games? That one against the Commanders was his best game of the season, and he followed it up with an even better game. And I actually agree with Judd Zolgad from Purple Daily when I disagree that the Commanders game means nothing. And we talked about that a little bit last week, how like bad teams don't shut out bad teams. So they did what they should have done. Yes, it's a bad defense. You should go slaughter a bad defense. And they did that. But I agree with Judd in the sense that is more meaningful because he followed it up with an even better game against a slightly better defense, a team that is fighting for a playoff spot. And as they continue to stack these games together, they play the Giants this coming week. Again, it's a bad team. They're a dumpster fire. Yeah. So he should be able to follow it up with another good game. And that's what we want to see. That's what development is. I don't know why we'd cheer for anything else or like downplay it. Oh, this isn't anything to be excited about because he did good against a bad team. All that to say, obviously I'm feeling pretty good. I think it's something worth celebrating about. I am going to get into my frustration, how quickly even Purple Daily can oscillate from McCarthy's a bust to now like Vikings have found their franchise QB. We'll get into that discussion. But what's your takeaway how you're feeling midway through this week after 2 good wins by the Vikings and specifically by McCarthy?
Well, I'm thinking about your comment about being being born in the region, and that pushed us towards being Vikings fans, and about how if either of our parents would have been sports fans, we'd probably be Packers fans or Bears fans. I don't know if that's a positive, or if that would be a positive to my life or a negative. But I
We would have seen a Super Bowl in our lifetime.
that's true. Did the Bears won a Super Bowl in 2003 or whenever? 2004
Well,
with
did
Rex
they?
Grossman.
I don't think they won. Did they win the last one they were in?
I was thinking it was one of those random quarterbacks like that wasn't
They were in a
significant.
Super Bowl in 2006, but they didn't win it. They haven't won since
I see.
'86.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, how do I feel? I think I feel pretty medium. Like I'm not like excited. I think there's this the NFL offseason is long and arduous, and in some ways it's one of the more interesting off seasons just because the NFL has done a really good job at hyping up the draft, and then you have like OTAs and well, you have free agency, you have OTA, you have the draft, you have OTAs, you have training camp, and so you can really follow your teams. But I really hate the anticipation of it's like, well, we just don't know until and it this year has been such a dud because just right out of the gate it was like, oh, it's gonna be one of those types of seasons, and um and so I'm not I'm not super excited just because season's coming to an end and it's been a bit of a dud season, and so it looks really long, and I really just don't know. Like I think I'm encouraged. It's always exciting when the Vikings win, and in that sense, I'm looking forward to these games. I'm very curious how JJ McCarthy, like I expect him to have another good game. I'm very curious how the last two will go versus Detroit and then Denver and then Green Bay. Um can you hear the tantrum happening in the background?
Yeah, right now I can, but I think when I edit it,
Okay.
the AI will take the background out.
Okay. Um I I think that if I think that the jury is still out on McCarthy, obviously. And I think my position right now is he's playing really good. I think they're answering a lot of questions that I had. Um, I think this Cowboys game in particular was more impressive than the Commanders game, just because McCarthy truly won the game for the Vikings. Obviously, like people made plays, the defense did all right, but it wasn't like they were just playing from like a dominant lead the whole time. Um, like if he doesn't make a couple of those throws, um, they don't win the game. Um, and so that's encouraging. I like seeing that. I like seeing him have fun. Um, I think as far as like he can't he basically can't fall apart. Like if we get into like the Bears and the Packers and it's just back to the same old thing where it's like, oh, like against these better defenses who are still fighting for playoff positions, he is just back to like the Packers game in like week 12 or whatever it was. Um I think that would be pretty concerning. I don't think I would say the Vikings should like move off of him necessarily, but it would just be more discouraging of like, oh man, the progress that we wanted progress, we started to see progress, and now we're just like right back. It feels like every turning stone is like, oh, we're right back to where we were. Felt like, um and I think I would a lot of questions would come back, and then I would have a lot of questions going into next season of like, okay, what is our plan to develop him? Are we gonna take, you know, I'm kind of just rambling here about my thoughts about McCarthy in general. Yeah, I think a lot of that is unknown, and I think when we record in week 17 and 18, I'll have a better perspective of the things I'm ruminating about right now. I think right now that Cowboys game is incredibly encouraging, and if he can build on that, then we definitely have someone who we could develop, I think. Whether or not it's all his fault, whether or not it's Kevin O'Connell's fault, whether or not, like, I think I'm going to continue to, like, say I think we need to have patience. I think that the Vikings should give him competition and stick with him into 2026 and have someone who is competitive enough that if the floor starts to fall, they could turn to. Because that, I think that is my big criticism this year, was like because when in Bryce Young's rookie year they sat him for a couple weeks, he came back and he played well, and he's been improving year over year. It just felt like the Vikings weren't prepared for that this year, and he kind of ended up getting that a little bit. I don't know. I'm just kind of rambling now. Not a lot of organization to my thoughts.
Yeah, I am not the. I do not get. So I had the Vikings 11-6, not winning the division, but going to the playoffs and getting a playoff win. That was born largely because of where I thought Kevin O'Connell was at in his coaching journey. I expect those kinds of things. I've seen some stuff floated that, like, if Kevin O'Connell starts as head coach for the Vikings next year, it will be the first time since Gruden in 2018 or 19, I think, that a head coach has started a fifth season without a playoff game win. And I'm just like, to me, that's noise, that's irrelevant, and it's missing critical context. I even with my expectations, I have to just acknowledge how hard, like, I don't think even media gets how hard it is for rookie QBs to be developed.
Yeah.
And if Minnesota wins out, they end with a 500 record. 9-8 is what their record will be. Jaden Daniels was 11-6, obviously really good. Or were they? No, they were 12-5. CJ Stroud, I believe, was 10-7 his rookie year, or his first year starting. Already, they are 6-8. McCarthy obviously is just 4-4. I believe he's 4-4 in 8 starts. But that 6-8 record is better than the number 1 overall picks record, or even the number 2 picks record in their first year of starting. Both of them went 5-12. And so there's just so much that this is all shaped around Vikings fan and national media thinking that based off of the 14-3 season, Vikings should be able to build off of that and then go deep into the playoffs and Super Bowl. And I just think something that we have not loud and clearly acknowledged is those were entirely unrealistic expectations. None of us should have been expecting. Nick Wright was right to put the Vikings in dead last. I think he should have had the Bears in dead last year. He had the Bears going to the Super Bowl. So I think those expectations of first-time QBs that they're going to be bottom of their division, that's more realistic. The Jaden Daniels, the CJ Strouds are the anomalies. And even then, as we see, it doesn't always. I do think the Texans are perhaps the most slept on, most dangerous team right now in the NFL that don't let them into the tournament. Let's put it that way. They could go deep. And that's largely because I would say they have the best defense in the league. But CJ Stroud has playoff success, a certain level of that already under his belt. Having said all that, the year's been hard for him. The year's been hard for Jaden Daniels. The year's been hard for even Caleb Williams, though the Bears as a whole are experiencing success. Drake May is obviously taken leaps and bounds. I would say he, out of the gate, was the better looking QB of all of them. Bo Nix is looking very good. Maybe they are the best team in the AFC, the Broncos. But all I'm saying is, where I don't know that any of those quarterbacks have even 34. No, obviously they don't have 34. What are we at? 17 plus 14. So they're at the 31 starts in their career. I can't tell you if CJ Stroud has more than that starts, but I don't even know if CJ Stroud is a good QB. I can't tell you if Jaden Daniels is a good QB. I can't tell you if Drake May is a good QB. I thought he was. I had seriously been reconsidering, the Patriots might be the favorite for the Super Bowl, but he didn't look that good against the Bills, and he had a 21 lead and couldn't get a passing game going. And the Bills don't have that particularly good of a defense. And so all of this to say that, again, and we've mentioned it before, Kurt Warner said it heading into the season, JJ McCarthy has the most pressure coming into the season of any QB in the NFL. And I just think that's true. Is it rightfully true? I don't know. But I am so tired. Did you hear that bell?
No.
I'm not sure what that is. Sorry. I had to send a message to my wife here. So all that to say that I think what game was it where McCarthy, before where he got the concussion, was that the Packers game where he only had like 67 yards?
Yeah, because then Brosmer played the Seahawks.
Yeah, Brosmer played the Seahawks. Like, that is the bottom of the bottom, and then obviously the team as a whole, they get shut out against the Seahawks, and that feels like it's even worse. But I think we had a huge part of the fan base running with a conspiracy that KOC is specifically withholding Brosmer because he doesn't want Brosmer to do better than McCarthy and all of this, which was so weird. Like, now you see, like, Brosmer in training camp looked decisive, looked strong, looked good, and then just looks crazy. Like, he's totally lost against the Seahawks. I think the Vikings staff they know who their guy is.
Yeah.
And it's just an example of how challenging it is for these rookie QBs to come into the league and be able to start strong. And then the narratives changed weirdly, because that narrative was like, KOC likes McCarthy and wants him to do well, wants to hide his flaws. And now there's the narrative that KOC is kind of irked by McCarthy and, like, is taking jabs at McCarthy. This is the weirdest in my lifetime following someone. Even I had here to talk about, like, Chris Carter, like, going out of his way to speak critically of JJ and about very weird things. I just don't
He's an
get
Ohio
it.
State alum.
Is he?
Yeah.
See, I think like so much of this comes back to McCarthy being a Michigan person. Like, has McCarthy played bad? Yes.
Yeah.
Can you laugh at me for thinking the Vikings should win a playoff game this year?
Right.
Yeah. Like, I underestimated how hard it was. But is McCarthy a bust? No. McCarthy's, like, do we have problems if he looks like he did against the Bears and the Packers the rest of the season? And to your point, if when they play a playoff caliber team again, he looks bad, that's going to be discouraging. But I just don't get why we're so quick to have a solid conclusion on him when some of these guys who are playing really good, I'm not sure we can have a solid conclusion on them yet either.
Yeah. No, I think you make all good points. I think one thing is, like, McCarthy is a bit of a weirdo. And I last week I said that I think
Say that.
clearly, I think clearly he's liked by, like, I think O'Connell likes him. Is like either O'Connell like kind of likes him, and it's like a like fatherly thing, or he is like, there are some things that I've gone back and forth about. I think I'm settling into. I think O'Connell's just a coach, and I think it was Matthew
I,
Collar kind of went off on about this on his podcast. He's just like, O'Connell's a coach and he's very wordy, and he'll so like, and he also knows that the Vikings are an engaged fan base, and so ever since he's been here, he's tried to like peel behind the curtains to show and kind of coaches the audience. And in order to do that, also ends up kind of critiquing his player, which is the only player people ask about. Like if we were asking about Donovan Jackson, Kevin O'Connell would end up critiquing Donovan Jackson too. But nobody's asking questions about, hey, how did you think Donovan Jackson played, in this situation or whatever.
can I just pause
Yeah.
really quick? And like, I guess people say McCarthy's a weirdo. How? Explain. And is that similarly to the whole mechanic
Quarterbacks
issue?
are weirdos.
Is that just like, is that a narrative we're generating among ourselves? Like, how is he much more weird than anybody else? I get he does have a history of mental struggles, and so he was pretty vocal about meditation and some of the mindset shifts that he's gone into for his game. But that's actually not that abnormal for Brock Purdy himself. Had some conversation around that as well. For guys at that level of professional, like it's very common for superstars to go through mental struggle. I'm not meaning to say McCarthy is for sure a superstar, but I'm just saying like that exists at a superstar level, at successful level. Even the whole thing of Kevin O'Connell critiquing McCarthy. I'll watch some of these press conferences, and or more, what's happened is I hear people talking about this and I'm like, oh, interesting. And then I'll go and listen. What did Kevin O'Connell say? And I'm like, I don't see it. I'm not like, how is he critiquing McCarthy any more than he did Darnold or Cousins, or to your point, like people are asking about it, and and the whole narrative was that KO is trying to protect McCarthy. Is he trying to just respond and show like, no, I actually do see significant areas McCarthy needs to grow in. I'm not trying to protect him or what? Like, I just think there's so much focus on every little move McCarthy does that we as a fan base and media as a whole have become weird in our grappling for critiques and for conclusions and judgments. And I'm just like, are things actually that weird? Because Cincinnati, Dolphins, Browns, those are teams falling apart.
Yeah.
And you hear about it from players. And every time we hear players on the Vikings talk, with the exception of Adam Thielen, they have his back and they're supportive of him.
Yeah.
And I'm just not convinced that people are so distraught internally as it's made.
Yeah.
So I say all that to force you to say more.
So 2 responses. I want to respond to what people are seeing as critiques, because I think I've come to disagree with them, but I see what they're saying. And then I also want to respond to the weirdo comment. I think he's a little bit of a weirdo in like a lovable sense. Like in the sense that like most quarterbacks are kind of quirky. They're a little bit in their head, like we think of quarterbacks as super cool, like, oh, like you're a high school quarterback. Those quarterbacks probably don't actually make it very far. Like the Burrows and the Bradys and the Mannings are guys who are nerds and obsessed with football. And so they're like taking care of their body, and they're eating like you hear about some quarterback diets and you're just like, what in the world? Like you're eating
Even the way Patrick Mahomes walks around, like, just kind of looks
yeah,
funny.
like he's like, and so quarterbacks in general just are just kind of different. And so when you hear like McCarthy coming in, he has a baby face. He looks very young, and he's talking. He's given like Jalen Hurts type quotables, and he's like, I'm just like a cork, or I'm just like a bottle of wine about to, you know, pop or whatever. Or
He said that?
yeah, it was I
I
think it was
missed that one.
after. So obviously you have the 9 thing after the Lions game, and then you have, it was either in that same week or it was after the Packers game, or in recently. He described himself as like he thinks he's like a a cork about to pop. And
But then,
it's just these like, just, I think I think based on how people respond to him, I think people around him like him. I think the audience looks at him and are like laughing at his face. But like you see on his Instagram, like he posted some pictures of recent games, and had the song overplaying That's Life by Frank Sinatra, and just kind of this subtle like, hey, like I'm gonna ignore the haters type of thing. And Eric Wilson commented just the symbol 9 on his Instagram, and like a couple of his other teammates were commenting and stuff, and you see them in the locker room. He came in, and this is the one most recently where I watched it. I just had to crack up because I was like, guy's a little bit awkward, but like they clearly love him. He walked in and he's like, where are my big boys at? And then hands them the big, and doesn't really know what to say, and it's just like, just throws them the game ball that I think NBC gave him. And
I always get a kick out of when he's calling his teammates boys, because
yeah,
he's the youngest one of them all.
he's the youngest one. He has a baby face, but you see them, they don't take it belittlingly. They, Brian O'Neill's is the one that catches it and is like laughing, and so I think there is like just a quirkiness about him that I think is part his personality. Harbaugh is also like a weird guy, and so he really
Yeah.
looks up to Harbaugh. Um, and he's also 22. Like I think the 9 thing was mostly being 22 and wanting to really like, rev your engines or whatever and be like, oh yeah, like I'm 9, not expecting that, he'd go out the next week
Have
and
you
kind of embarrass himself. I think
have you seen Justin Jefferson's interview with I forget his name, that guy from is it Yahoo Sports? The he goes on the Rich Eisen show and hosts every now and then. Short little dude. His name is slipping. But Justin, he specifically brought up the
Andrew
9 thing. Andrew, yeah.
Siciliano, I think.
Yeah.
Short
The
little
only
dude.
reason I said short little guy is because he himself has talked about it.
Yeah, no,
His height.
he talks about how short he is.
I'm a short little guy too, compared to
I didn't. Yeah,
the guys in the
compared to these
Eisen
guys.
show. But did you see that?
No.
Jefferson's like, I think people blew it way out of proportion. He's like, it's like,
Yeah.
he said exactly what you were saying, that he said, it's like me calling myself Jets or Jettas. Like an athlete needs to have a switch where they turn it on in game time. And
I think especially guys, I think McCarthy and Jefferson are both kind of introverted naturally, and for sure I know Jefferson for sure is, but like McCarthy might not be introverted, but he he's talked about his mental health struggles and stuff, and so like there is a sort of difference, like a reservation, I think, that they would have off the field. And when you're an athlete who needs to go on the field and like have your adrenaline pumping and stuff, I think for both of them, they like enter into these different personalities, what they describe as different personalities. I think I would tend to be like, it's just a different aspect of who you are that you're tapping into, maybe. But like,
which is like, I was listening, or actually reading. I didn't listen to the quotes from that, but Kevin O'Connell's comments in regard to that. I think Kevin O'Connell is responding out of his faith, and maybe I'm wrong, but his response was kind of like, yeah, sort of whatever McCarthy needs to do. It's just really important to O'Connell that McCarthy can be his authentic self. And that's been, first of all, Kevin O'Connell's message from the very beginning.
Yeah.
I've also heard Kevin O'Connell talk at different faith events, and that's a pretty big thing that he's passionate about in sports, is helping guys.
Yeah.
I don't know how he worded it exactly, but the framing coming more from like, God made you who you are. You don't have to be something else. Obviously, I'm projecting in. I don't know for sure. But when I saw the quote, when I was reading the quote, I was like, oh, I've heard that kind of language from Kevin O'Connell before. And it would make sense because that's how I would view it if I'm coaching my sons or thinking in terms of myself or whatever. Is like, yeah, it's helpful for a shift perhaps, but my view and theology of man in relation to us being made in the image of God is we, like, yeah, I wouldn't want us to think that we have to be somebody else in a moment of whatever. I don't know. Maybe I'm reading all into it, but it made me wonder if media is reading KOC's version of discipleship as critique of like, oh, I don't really like that alter ego.
Yeah.
But actually a Christian coach is trying to help his new budding QB be grounded. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I certainly think that probably influences O'Connell's entire approach to coaching. I I think I was to address like some of the critique stuff. I think some people saw like O'Connell has gone on like Paul Allen and different places and like oh shoot, what was the one? Kevin Seifert shared a clip of him on Paul Allen's midweek show where he was going into detail about something with McCarthy, and he was just going into detail that just felt a little bit like extra, like an extra amount of information that I don't remember him. I mean, he was having a good season with Sam, and Sam is also like a 6-year vet. So there's probably fewer things to critique about, but I think some people have read some of those comments as O'Connell kind of creating separation between himself and McCarthy to kind of like signal to the world, maybe to the Wilfs or whoever, that like, hey, what's going on is McCarthy. Like we're giving him all we could. He's kind of in some post game press conferences, he's kind of said as much of like, we've given him all we can as coaches, and he just needs to, complete that play or work on that mechanic or whatever. I could pull up probably some specific quotes and press conferences.
Are you
I think
are you
I think I can see that critique. There's been a number of them. It feels like they're there for like 5 or 6 weeks. It was like every week there was something. I think I can see that of like, ooh, like, is like, did he have to like say that publicly? Is he creating separation? I'm pretty satisfied with the perspective of Matthew Collar, where he's just like, he just chalks it up to a coach being a coach and kind of being it publicly. Like if a coach coaches publicly, it's going to feel to the audience like he's critiquing and he's just coaching. And so I
You
think
know what I also think?
I've stopped like leaning into that. But it is something that like
Yeah.
I'm thinking about. Is like, oh, if there is drama in the spring, I'm gonna go back and be like, oh, maybe there was a little bit more to that than I thought.
Yeah, and I wanna cloak everything that I've been saying in the sense that, like, I'm obviously not in there in the locker room. Maybe
Yeah.
my take is wrong. I just don't quite see why we have like, it feels like we're and I'm using a general we,
Yeah.
sorry, I have something to deal with here.
You're good. You're good.
Sounds like they resolved it themselves.
Quick.
Uh it can feel like people are grasping at things to have to blame for the missed expectations for one thing, but then even because if you ride it for what I think it really is, it's actually a really boring season for the Vikings. They're not like nobody's getting fired, nobody's falling apart. There's like that gets media attention, that gets all the things. They're not going to the playoffs. If they win out, they lose ranking in the draft picks and all that and schedule placement for next year. And like those are like it's kind of this boring thing. And what I think is top of mind for Kevin O'Connell, and I think he has developed a really good culture where this is true, which is why you see the whole team rallying behind McCarthy, but Thielen was out. I don't think Thielen was quite developed in this culture. And this is what I think it is. I think in Kevin O'Connell, it is development first, championship next. Development first, championship next. And for everybody else, for us as a fan base, for media, everybody thinks O'Connell's championship. It's blitzkrieg on championship. He's going to do what, job protection to whatever. But I think Kevin O'Connell is very focused on development and I think he's prepped the team. Like when we've heard him talk about things in the locker room back when Cousins was still here, like he's talked about building towards something, and like all of his speeches have that language. And what stands out to me is his players have that language too. The Aaron Joneses, the Justin Jeffersons, the Jonathan Gennards, the who was it recently? TJ Hawkinson, different guys who could take their own little shot aren't, and they're very much in that mindset. And I'm guessing, like, I haven't dug deep into it. Obviously, I wasn't present to interview Thielen on anything, but I'm guessing Thielen wasn't quite ready for that he wanted, because even a little bit, you said something earlier, like having a better plan to fall back on. Like in some ways, and I get your point about like Bryce Young was benched for a little bit. I definitely think there should be some sort of competition in the offseason to kind of push and nudge McCarthy. But I think it's okay for Kevin O'Connell's legacy to be riding and dying on JJ right now. And let's let him, as the kids say, let's let him cook.
Yeah.
What's going to come out in a year or two? I think we should see in the game, the final week against the Packers, how does McCarthy look? And there, I can already hear it, the excuses. Well, the Packers are checked out because of all the injuries, and they're not, whatever. But we'll see in these final weeks, is there development? Is there wise decision making? Is there a freeness? Which is why I think it's ridiculous that now we have the whole controversy over the gritty. Like McCarthy's every athlete's going to be their best when they're free and when they can just play with their own joy and delight. How many times have we watched Justin Jefferson's first touchdown as a pro, and he starts his gritty at the 10-yard mark, or maybe it was within the 10-yard, but he's not in the end zone when he starts his gritty, and nobody critiques that. And all that to say, I'm kind of spewing again. I think the focus is development, and I think KOC has probably been very vocal about that. And things he's saying to press and in public, he's already said to people privately. And so they're not necessarily, I'd be surprised if JJ's seeing KO's interview with Paul Allen and be like, what? Why are you talking about that? Because he's probably already heard it. And maybe even agrees with him. I don't know. I don't like.
You would sure hope that he's heard it. Like that. That would be like coaching malpractice 101. It feels like.
Yeah, any kind of leadership malpractice. I agree that quarterbacks are a little quirky and weird. I was going to say something about McCarthy in response to that. Caleb Williams, just this week, somebody asked if it was a ill-advised throw to DJ Moore throwing on the run. And Caleb Williams, does anybody remember what Caleb Williams did most of last year? Believe he led the league in interceptions, didn't he?
Mm-hmm.
His response is, no, I can make any throw.
Yeah.
And we as fans sit there and laugh, right? Like, sure. Yes, his record is 10-4 right now. So he has the space, and his touchdown to interception ratio is practically flipped. I'm actually wrong on that. He only threw 6 last year.
Only threw 6 interceptions.
Who led the league? Yeah.
Oh, that's actually pretty good.
He led the league in sacks.
Yeah, that's what it was.
Yeah.
Which also, makes sense why he wouldn't have he probably had pretty high incompletions too. Like
his completion rating is actually worse this year. He was 62.5, and he's at a 58 completion percentage this year. Already has more touchdowns, significantly fewer sacks. 68 on the year last year, 23 so far. So, yeah, but my point being, we've seen enough plays of Caleb Williams for that to be really strange. And I wish I could remember what I was going to say about McCarthy. But yes, QBs are weird. I'm not trying to downplay the fact that, is McCarthy really weird? When I asked how is he weird, I was intending to ask a comparison question of like, how is he any more weird than any other QB, or any more even the whole 9 thing? Like, athletes, I've heard a lot of athletes talk about that in various sports, but
the thing that maybe makes him a little bit easier to target is that he's very genuine. He's just an incredibly sincere person. Like he wants to impress. I think he wants to impress Kevin O'Connell. I think he wants to impress. I would imagine he wants to impress, like, the media and the fan base and
Jefferson.
Stuff. But yeah, like he and you can kind of read that he's either purposefully or just incapable of hiding the sincerity of wanting to be impressive, but I think, to be fair to him, also wanting to be great. Like,
and that reminds me what I was going to say about him that I couldn't remember. He definitely is, as he currently stands, something I have myself pondered. I've seen accusations of narcissism, like he's an incredible narcissist. When I saw that, I was like, is he? Because it was right. I think it was during the Packers game. There was a clip of him like slapping up his wide receivers and trying to amp them up or something. And he was obviously doing
And
bad
people
in
took
that.
that as narcissism.
Yeah, I don't know why. Like if it was him, I don't know. They thought Justin was upset at him because Justin's kind of saying something. And there's so many
I
different
mean,
ways you can
Justin
read it.
might have been
But
upset at him. I think that's okay.
well, I would have said it looked like Jefferson was trying to get him to calm down.
Oh,
Like,
interesting.
so
Just
some people
yeah.
thought it was like calm down, as in don't think too highly of yourself. The way I read that was like, hey, let's keep
Don't
at it.
get
Let's keep
amped up.
going. Like,
Yeah.
don't get discouraged. Like, that was kind of how obviously you can't hear
Yeah.
the voices, what they were saying, but just kind of the demeanor of what it looked like. But maybe Justin was upset, and that's fine. Like that kind of thing needs to happen. For some reason, like the Eagles can be a drastically dysfunctional team and like vocally talking to media about each other, and everybody's like, "Oh, they're going to be fine." But then the Vikings aren't even doing that, and everybody's trying to come up with like, "Oh, it's just falling apart on the inside." I don't know that people
Yeah.
are quite saying that, but
Yeah.
it's amusing to me how. Back to my point, though, in his sincerity, which is kind of how I'm reading it right now, I can see it. It is that piece of like, is he a narcissist or is he just really sincere and a hard worker? I think he's really sincere, and I think he's a really hard worker, and I think he's going to do quite well, but he's not doing very well right
Yeah.
now. And his
He's a
level of
sincere narcissist.
optimism and sincerity can come across, especially in the face of his own flaws right now. It can come across as it's like, don't
Yeah.
be so optimistic about like
Yeah.
we all get it's sort of like, this is kind of a weird analogy, but there's a YouTube guy who's quite overweight. I forget his name. I think you know who I'm talking about. His name is Caleb. But he's goofy, and he like creates these goofy
Oh,
little
yeah.
clips.
I think I
And
know what you're talking about.
the comments are full of people just trashing him. Like, this is not funny. This is not like, you should go work out, or like he kind of pokes fun at his own weight sometimes. But then he's also had videos talking about his journey of accepting himself and stuff. And I just kind of in the shadows have been intrigued by how much vitriol he gets. And his stuff is goofy. Sometimes it doesn't click with me. A lot of times it's like, oh, me and my brothers do this to each other. It's just kind of funny and goofy. But I think there's something that makes people really uncomfortable when we think you need to look like really trim and fit, right? And here's a guy who's not, and he's totally comfortable in his own skin.
Yeah.
And he's having a good old jolly time. And that like brings out our insecurities and whatever. And I wonder if there's not a similar thing happening where we expect you to be Patrick Mahomes, JJ. Like, you're going to save this franchise and just be amazing, and you're not. And yet you're totally okay in this process, in this journey where you're at, and you're super optimistic. And it's like, I don't know what to do with that. And so I have to call you names or think of things.
I think
Or maybe he
yeah.
is a narcissist.
I think some of the hate I think they have very different personalities. I think some of the hate that Caleb Williams got could fall into some of that as well.
That's true.
Like people really hated him like expressing kind of, feminine characteristics or whatever. Which I think is just layered with problems.
Yeah.
And it's different, but there is like a sort of like when people are okay just being themselves, expressing themselves differently. I need to help.
Yeah, go for it.
Felt like there was one more thing I was gonna say. About um just responding to what you said quite a while ago about talking about Kevin O'Connell going into a 5th season, and I think it was John Gruden's brother, Jay Gruden, who was the last one to do that without a playoff win.
Or was it Jay? I thought
Yeah,
it was John.
yeah, I think it was Jay. The thing, like I've been thinking about this because so Luke Braun with Locked On Vikings has compared like different stats this season to other seasons that got coaches fired, and then also seasons that got quarterbacks benched, and like up into at least up until like the Commanders game, he's been tracking this along the way. Up until the Commanders game, it was trending to be a season that like every other time the Vikings have like hit these metrics. I think he was tracking like EPA and um different, um analytics and stuff. And and like anytime the Vikings had done those types of numbers before that season, the head coach had gotten fired. And he wasn't saying that Kevin O'Connell should get fired or would get fired. He was just kind of tracking it and finding it interesting. And I was thinking through, I was like, yeah, but like, okay, so this season has been really bad, and like our, EPA has been bad, and DVOA, and I don't even entirely understand all of these things. Um, but I have never felt, and I don't think anyone who knows anything has really genuinely thought that Kevin O'Connell would get fired. I think there were a couple of weeks there where it was like, is he on the hot seat? But, I think at this point, especially if they play well out the rest of the season, there's no way Kevin O'Connell's getting fired. And I was trying to figure out what is different because like, yeah, like there is like a degree of like 4 years, um, Brian Dable didn't make it as long. Like, I don't, are any of his other like coaching classmates still coaching?
McDaniel is, but he's
Oh,
very likely
I
on his
mean,
way out.
yeah. And I was trying to think of like what
But
is different, and I think it comes down to like, yeah, we've had some good winning seasons, and it's not just like average seasons. We've had like 13 and 14 win seasons.
the Kevin O'Connell's record compared to his other coaching class, there's no comparison.
Yeah.
Like Dayball wasn't anywhere close to what Kevin O'Connell has done, even though Dayball beat him in the playoffs.
Right,
yeah.
in the playoffs.
Keep going.
It's that playoff piece that's missing, and which is significant. But I think the thing is the culture. Like, I think the thing that Kevin O'Connell brings to the table is the culture, and I think, I was really upset at him. I think it was after the Seahawks game where I was just like, I thought maybe he had lost the locker room and et cetera and et cetera, and the fact that they've come back and they haven't given up. They're still playing. They're still in it. You hear some of the things that the players are saying, and like the emotion that they're feeling, and it's clear that he still has the locker room, and I think that's the difference, because you look at guys like McDaniel. Although, I mean, one could argue that McDaniel hasn't lost the locker room because they did kind of come back and were playing. But like, yeah, guys like Brian Dable, Nathaniel Hackett, wasn't he also in that coaching class?
Yeah.
The guy who got the Chargers job, like all of those guys just, or like last year with the Patriots, Mayo, Gerard Mayo. Like, you just look at those guys, and they there's nothing inspiring about them as people, which is, there's not anything particularly inspiring about, like, it is Uncle Asher. There's nothing particularly inspiring about like Nick Sirianni or whatever. But these guys. What? Oh, it's a picture of Nana. Yeah. I think for me as a fan, it is having like Kevin O'Connell having that kind of locker room feeling. Like it would feel very differently, even if we had won the last couple of games. It would feel very differently if it felt like guys were just playing for their paychecks or like playing for their next contract or whatever, which is no doubt a big part of why people are still motivated. But you also do see guys like Harrison Smith. I mean, I think about Thielen, who on one hand, he's indicated that this is his last year. And so on a very practical level, I don't blame him asking to be released. Why he went to the Steelers. I mean, maybe he just wanted to play with Aaron Rodgers. But
I don't blame him either for asking to be released, but why he chose the Steelers then?
But then you see a guy like does he
the Bills could have used him.
Does he provide a significantly more value to a team than like Harrison Smith would? Like they're both kind of old. Neither of them are particularly dominant anymore.
If anything,
I think they have different personalities.
I
think Smith is pretty content to just ride it out with the Vikings, but
different personalities. Smith's strength this year, I think, has less to do with what he actually does on the field and more like how he directs defense and like gets guys into positions. Whereas Thielen, like I don't know where Thielen was whenever the ball showed up, he was dropping it. Anyways, I'm kind of critical, obviously.
Yeah. Yeah, Thielen, and whatever. Yeah, all that to say though, I like would O'Connell's ability to keep a locker room last past 5 seasons? I doubt it. And like at some point as an ownership group, you do have to say like, hey, we like you, we like what you bring, but like we don't want to spend half a decade, trying this out. Like we're here to win championships. Like the Wilfs aren't young people anymore. Like they want to return on their investment, obviously, but they probably also really want like a championship.
The Wilfs, just the name sounds like an older group. I don't know why. They were obviously young at some point and still named Wolf, but
yeah. They're from New Jersey.
Interesting. No, I completely agree. And excuse me. I think Kevin O'Connell, quite frankly, brought in a whole philosophy of development that I don't know that Daboll had in New York or that McDaniel has in like from the very onset. McDaniel, they went out and got Tyreek Hill, and McDaniel was like, oh yeah, let's do it. Like it's been all about having these superstar players on. And that's not really been Kevin O'Connell's. And there's been a lot of critique of how they've drafted and whether or not they're successful and so forth. And I think some of that is fair to a degree. But I think for the most part, like when you look at the franchise as a whole, Kevin O'Connell has had a philosophy of building something, which is what I'm like, part of why I'm saying I don't think he's on the hot seat. I think it would be foolish to just call it quits right now. Everything was derailed when McCarthy got injured. Not that he would have been starting last year, but the whole development process to his first starting season was delayed a year. And then it is a little bit more of a crash course in spring training. I always think that baseball in a training camp, as opposed to if they could have been doing all that stuff in practice last year. And so there's all these different facets. Having said all that, I completely think it is entirely fair for Kevin O'Connell to be on the hot seat, as it were, going into 2026. Mm-hmm. Not because I think, like, I guess I'm kind of arriving there at a different place, because Kevin O'Connell is building for something and developing something. And if it's not progressing to a championship, then obviously at some point that's going to call for his job. And that's kind of why I'm like, I don't know that I'm interested in them going out. I'm just looking at Twitter here now. Tua Tagovailoa is the number one landing spot for him is the Vikings. Vikings, Jets,
every landing
Raiders,
spot.
Steelers.
Burrow is also
Publix.
Burrow's number one spot is also projected to be the Vikings. Like,
yeah. And I don't know that I feel like we've had some offline interaction about this.
Yeah.
Burrow, I don't think the Vikings are a quarterback away from a Super Bowl. So my question with Burrow is, what are you not going to be able to fix in your offensive line, in your cornerbacks, the secondary of defense? Like what's not going to fix? Aaron Jones isn't getting any younger, so who's going to be your primary running back or your complementary running back to Mason if you bring in a guy like Burrow? But could Burrow do well in a Kevin O'Connell system? I think so, but I'm not super anxious for that. I really believe in Kevin O'Connell, and if he can't come good on the development plan, then I'm not sure that he should be the Vikings coach.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Kind of how I'm like, I don't know if I want Vikings to be like, we need a Super Bowl with Kevin O'Connell, and he needs to do whatever he can to get a quarterback that can do that. It's like, if Kevin O'Connell missed and can't develop the guy he drafted, then maybe he shouldn't. Maybe he's not. It's sort of like I would have been extremely disappointed in Kevin O'Connell if he did not adjust his scheme. The last 2 games he has had, and Purple Daily's done a good job of breaking this down, like his scheme is dramatically different.
Yeah.
He goes from 75%. Well, I'm talking away here. I've got some kids dealing with issues and forgot my wife has got, so
they're just out there.
I should go see what's going on. Now we should close this out too. We're going, let me be right back.
All right.
Yeah. So what I was saying was elite coaches change to the quarterback that they have, the personnel they have. And so I would have been disappointed if it was the kind of thing where Kevin O'Connell moves off of McCarthy and he's going to find somebody who can run his scheme. I've been grateful to see how he's changed. Instead of so much 13 personnel, he's running, instead of so much 11 personnel, he's running more 13 personnel, which allows them to have better pass protection, do some more in the running game and so forth. So yeah, all that to say, I want to see how this season ends, how Kevin O'Connell adjusts, how McCarthy adjusts. Is Kevin O'Connell's career as a Vikings head coach riding or dying on his ability to develop McCarthy? Perhaps, and I'm okay with that. I think that's how it should be.
Yeah. I think
maybe.
Obviously, one thing that people caution about, comparing him to Josh Allen and whatnot is that Josh Allen is like one of one. I think, and so I'm not saying that McCarthy is Allen. But I would imagine that more quarterbacks, there were more, no, not right now. More than we realize, there are more quarterbacks than we realize who should not have been busts, who did not have to be busts, I think is what I'm trying to say. Like,
yeah.
And I do think that there's a certain amount of patience, and I think one thing that I'm enjoying, and this is like the silver lining, is that we have an organization who is patient, who is willing to wait half a decade, because it is unlikely that you're going to hit, a Patrick Mahomes or Aaron Rodgers or a Joe Burrow who is just incredible out of the gate. And so I'm pretty happy and excited to wait and see. And I think, I mean, with a full off season, hopefully these next 3 games he's not getting injured. That would completely change everything if he does, but he'll have a full off season. He'll be able to work with a quarterback coach on his mechanics versus last year where he was just rehabbing.
Yeah.
He'll have, hopefully Justin Jefferson won't be, out of camp with a hamstring, and maybe they'll be able to build some chemistry and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Well, let's just do a quick run through.
Yeah, I forgot.
Just to show the people. Maybe we won't take a lot of time, but I was just gonna, I was gonna show like this. This was our prediction of the division.
Oh no!
And we can get a little chuckle out of how backwards it's gonna be.
Mine is gonna be perfectly backwards.
I said the Bills, or you said the Bills were going to meet the Eagles in the Super Bowl. I said the Chargers were going to meet the Lions in the Super Bowl.
This was 3 weeks in, or like 2 weeks in to the season.
Yeah, I think there had been 3 weeks of games, if I remember correctly.
The Chargers win over the Chiefs doesn't seem as significant anymore. Yeah. I think my positivity was largely like that they had started out so dominantly.
I think, and we were talking about this offline a little bit, I could be totally wrong, but I think the Chargers are better than their record shows. They've just dealt with a ton of injuries. And so, yeah, maybe they're going to be injured and they'll be last year's Lions. They get bounced quick. I'm not sure that the Broncos are as good as their record shows. A lot of people are like, man, they barely lost those 2 games. They'd be undefeated. And there's a good 3 or 4 games that they barely won, and it could have gone the other way as well. And yeah, it'll be interesting. Maybe they'll end well. You smothered me. Any ground that I made on you the week prior, you took it right back this week, or maybe I gave it right back. I don't know how it is, but I went 8-8. You went 13-3. We are. Oh dear, why did that do it that way?
It went in all different,
all different angles. I have to fix that. For the first time all season, I've been waiting for the Vikings to do 2 consecutive weeks where they show up, and now they have an opponent that I think they can beat, and so I'm gonna go.
This isn't the first
with
time
the Vikings.
that you've predicted them, is it?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, I the first time is a comment about.
Oh, I see.
Consistency.
I was like, "There's no way."
No, I think I predicted them to beat the
Browns.
Steelers and the Browns and the Eagles. I think I went into that game thinking they could beat the Eagles.
I think we both did. I don't.
And the Bears. I had them beating the Bears as well, but both times. But obviously that didn't work out.
We almost did. If it wasn't for that special team snafu, we'd still be in this playoff contention.
Oh, I forgot about that. I have the Jaguars beating the Broncos. I think the Jaguars are one of the more intriguing teams to track down the stretch. Yeah, it'll be interesting.
Trevor Lawrence is playing really well.
So yeah, we'll see. We'll come back next week. Whoops. Just show you all. If you didn't know that, I developed this in Canva. Hit escape to get out of my screen share, and that just got me out of full view. Okay, well, thank you for riding with us in our commotion and our argumentation and our excitement and back and forth and our exasperation of Vikings fan base, and an hour and 18 minutes worth of, well, actually, when you're watching this, it'll probably be less because there's a good chunk we can cut out.
Quite the year.
We will see you all next week.
Yep.